River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Niner Nuts. I'm Dan here along with Jimmy B and Eric. How are we doing, gentlemen?
Training camp starts. Yay, football's back.
Yeah, I mean, we've got like not real football yet, but at least like somewhat pretend meaningful football.
Yeah, we got 7-on-7s. Yay!
We have meaningful football to talk about for the first time since since the draft, because the draft's after free agency. Since the draft, we haven't had much meaningful footballness to talk about. And now we do. The 49ers have finally started their training camp on Tuesday, just a couple days ago, the day after we taped our last episode, coincidentally. Because, of course, timing always works like that. And we can now talk about, because we didn't before, we can talk about how not only is Brandon Ayuk doing a hold-in, he did show up to training camp, but he has also formally requested a trade, much like Debo did, much like Robbie Gould. I believe Robbie Gould requested a trade too. I might be wrong on that, but okay, because Robbie was a really contentious contract.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, not only is Brandon Ayuk doing a hold-in, our starting all-pro left tackle Trent Williams is doing a hold-in. So I heard little murmurs. Like, I'm not trying to sound like that guy, but like I did hear a couple murmurs that I definitely didn't think about for quite a while. I don't even know what month I saw the first murmur. Maybe it was back in May or June, but like I didn't really think much of it. And I haven't thought about it until 2 days ago when it was reported that Trent Williams is doing a hold-in, presumably because none of the rest of his contract is guaranteed. 99% confidence across all the sources that I check with that is the reason why. Trent Williams does have 2 years left of his contract, but all the guaranteed money has been accounted for despite having $30 million cap hits the rest of the way of the current contract. None of the money is actually guaranteed. So, his AAV, it doesn't seem like to me is the reason why. Like, I'm sure he's expecting to have a little bump in AAV because multiple tackles have now surpassed him in AAV. But the real big sticking point is if we were to release him now or next year, he's basically just getting restructure bonuses and signing bonuses. None of his actual salary is guaranteed from here on out. So with that now in play, along with Brandon, we've already talked ad nauseum that Brandon is trying to get a $30 million contract like Amon-Ra, like AJ Brown. We already had that to deal with, but now we have a Trent holdout as well. So, or hold in, because he did show up, unlike Hassan Reddick with the Jets. He actually showed up. So he's not getting the fines, but I don't know, gentlemen, what do we think now that Trent Williams is asking for some guaranteed money? Like, it seems like he's asking for that kind of contract that Christian got, where it was a money shuffling extension, so to say, like what we talked about a couple months ago. But what do you guys think about Trent now holding in the same as Brandon?
Why are we doing I don't get it. Why is John doing this every single year? Like every single year. There's a training camp hold in and somebody's upset with their freaking money, and like, John, just nip it in the bud, man. Just don't let it get to training camp. Like, just take care of it before it gets there, so everybody's happy when they come to training camp and nobody's pissed off because they don't have guaranteed money or they don't have a contract yet and they're threatening the trade. Like, every year we go through this. It's the same drama every year, and it's like you don't need to do it this way. You don't have to like wait until training camp to get a guy to sign a contract. Like you don't. Howie Roseman proves it time and time and again. You don't need to wait till training camp to get somebody to sign a contract. Like it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, if Trent wants to pout and miss the first couple weeks of training camp, first 3 weeks of training camp, I don't even really care, to be honest, because that's less chance of him getting hurt during training camp. So that's perfectly fine by me. He
At
doesn't.
36 years old, that is a actual risk factor.
Yeah, I mean, he's played football for half of his life at this point in time or longer. He doesn't really need training camp. He knows how to do this, and I mean, he's set. He's got it down pat. He's arguably the best left tackle in football. I don't know that he needs 3 extra weeks of practice or whatever. I think it's a good sign that both him and Brandon are actually at camp, even though they're holding in. It's a different, like you mentioned, Hassan Reddick and the Jets. I think it's a different stance. When
Jamar Chase is actually doing an out as well as CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's doing an actual holdout too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of a different stance with the organization, and it shows a little bit more about kind of where things are if you're actually not even coming to camp, right? I mean, I think at least if you're at least coming to camp, you're there with the team, you're showing your support for the team, you're showing that you want to be there for the team. You're obviously also trying not to get fined, but if things are good enough that you can still show up to the building and be there and be on the sidelines and stuff like that, then clearly the relationship is not terrible with your organization, and probably a deal is going to get done.
So you don't think it's like Marshawn Lynch when he had to do the interview at the Super Bowl was just like, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
That's closer to what happened with Jimmy, remember 2 years ago when there's no way there's no way on earth Jimmy thought he was actually going to be there. Like he had a facility that he could work out in. He already said goodbye to everybody. He was probably just laughing like, John, good luck getting a first round pick for me. I know who I am. Like, I'm just going to work out until you tell me to leave. And then he ended up staying. Like,
yeah.
Which ended up being a good move, is having him stay.
Yeah. Like you've mentioned but I would equate that more to like how you said we got super lucky with Brock. We got super lucky that Jimmy ended up staying and taking a pay cut.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as Trent's contract goes, I mean, if they want to guarantee Trent all 31 million of his dollars for this particular year, I don't care. Go ahead and guarantee Trent all of his money for this year. We're all
he's already on the books anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get paid this year anyways. We're all in on this year anyways. I mean, it's Super Bowl or bust again for the team this year anyways. It's not like we're going to get partway through the season and be like, "Oh, Trent, you suck. We're cutting you." I mean, he's in it to win this year anyways. So, I mean, if they want to guarantee his salary for this year, guarantee his salary for this year. I don't care. Would I guarantee his salary beyond this year? Oh, hell no. There's no way. Because I think he's a possible cap casualty come next season when we have to pay Brock and we have to start paying other people when we gotta get other people to take reductions and restructures and stuff like that. Not when the bill comes due per se, for all the cap work that we've been doing these last few years. I think he's going to be one of those guys that we ask to take a cut or a restructure, or he's going to be gone, especially if he doesn't have any more guaranteed money. So I wouldn't give him any more beyond this year, but give him all the money he wants this year. Who cares?
I think what John's going to end up countering, like, I feel like the way that these contract situations usually go, it's not as simple as a matter of just like, oh, well, let's just put pen to paper and guarantee your 2 years. Like, Trent's probably going to ask for it. Between what the two of them are asking for, I'd imagine that they're both trying to do something in the realm of like a 2-year extension where those 2 years are like like 80 or 70 million dollars, but they both know it's not going to be getting there. But John is going to want him to sign something that will reduce his cap hit despite the overall total being guaranteed. So it's trying to find that middle ground between, okay, what are you going to be happy with saying that I can pay you, while at the same time taking your cap from, because the salary alone for this year, like just the salary, I think is like 20 or 21. How can I get that closer to like 15, 16, maybe even like 13 or 12, and then just backload it with the knowledge that you are going to be getting paid down the line. Where can we split the difference where you cost less now, even though I'm going to have to pay you later? Like I'd imagine that's what the conversation is like going on right now.
I don't know that I want to get into a bunch of monetary gymnastics with a 37-year-old left tackle that I like a lot, and he brings a lot of energy to the team, and he's clearly a big leader on the team, but he also misses games every year. Every year he misses 2, 3, sometimes 4 games. I don't know that I want to negotiate a bunch of numbers and stuff with a guy like, I think I want to just have my out as, look, next year you're either taking a cut or we love you, Trent, but you got to walk. We can't pay you $30 million anymore. Like, you're a 37-year-old left tackle in the NFL. I don't know what to tell you. If you leave the team, you're not getting 37 million, or you're not getting $30 million anywhere else at 37 years old. You're probably getting 10 someplace else. So we'll give you 10, we'll give you 12, we'll even give you 15 maybe. But that's about the extent of what you're going to get. So, I mean, I guess if you can make those numbers work somehow, that he's ended up making $15 million and it's not much more guaranteed, then I guess. But I mean, he's not going to do that. So, I mean, I wouldn't create a lot of flexibility with the guy and kick a bunch more money down the road for something like that. I don't think I would do that. He's not going to not play. I mean, that's not going to happen. So, I mean, he doesn't really have any leverage.
Here's the leverage I see, though. And I want to use Arik Armstead as a comparison. Arik missed so much more time than Trent has that we figured out a way to not have our bottom fall out on the defensive line without him. We figured out, and we drafted good people and had a good enough rotation thanks to our defensive line coach and the DC. We figured out how to mask. We were better with Arik there, but we figured out a way to mask and make his absence not feel that bad. I'm not convinced that we have that with Trent. It is such a notable drop-off when we don't have Trent, that if this is the last, like, we're using Purdy's contract as like a milestone. This is the last year that we have Purdy on contract for less than $1 million. If you want me to still anchor this line for just this 1 year, like, you give me a 1-year extension, guarantee me a lot of money, but you know, and I know that, like, this is going to be Dunzo and I'm going to be one of those cap casualties. I want to know, like, you're going to pay me this much money to see me walk, hopefully with a Super Bowl hat in my hand, because I'm going to bust my ass to get you a Super Bowl hat and a ring. But you know how bad this offensive line is without me there. It's such a worse drop-off on offense than when we lost Arik Armstead.
He's going to play his ass off anyways. He wants a Super Bowl ring just as bad as anybody else does.
He knows how valuable that is, though. Like, I would love for him to be like, yeah, I'm 36. I get it. Pay me $10 million. But he's still so good, though. He's not just a starter. He's still the best left tackle in the whole damn league, and he knows it. That's the leverage that he's going to present to John. I'm not saying he's right, but I'm saying I'm just presenting the information that, like, he does have leverage. Not nearly as he has more leverage than Arik did. So Arik leaving makes sense. Trent's got a lot more ammo to fight with, I think.
The only thing that I see is that Trent is in no way, shape, or form not playing this season. You can't tell me that he's going to hold out the whole season and just watch $31 million go out the window. That is not going to happen, period. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. So he's eventually going to play. So maybe he holds out all of training camp, but I guarantee you week 1, Trent is going to be on the field. And then
he's not going to want to go somewhere else. That I will agree with you. This is still his best opportunity to get a ring.
yeah,
So no.
he's playing for a ring. I don't think he's going to go anywhere else. I think if I'm not going to say that if they offer him a cut and tell him he needs to take a pay cut next year that he's going to take it. I think he's just as likely to retire and say that he's done and doesn't want to play anymore because he has a bajillion dollars and doesn't have anything else to do. But I don't think he's, unless he got an offer from the Chiefs or maybe the Packers or the Lions or, one of these other teams that's perennially in the contention for the playoffs in the Super Bowl.
Isn't that funny to say that the Lions are perennially?
Yeah, yeah. It was very hard to get it to come out of my mouth.
I bet he would like playing for Dan Campbell. I bet he would.
But I mean, unless he's going to get an offer from one of those kinds of teams, he's not going to go play for the friggin' Jaguars. He's not going to go play for the Raiders. He's not going to go play for the Saints. He's not going to go do that. He's not interested in that. He's not going to go at 37 years old. He's not going to go bust his ass for 6 months of the year to go play for a team that's not going anywhere after having been in Washington for the early part of his career on a team that was going nowhere and then coming here and being part of a franchise that had everything going for it and experiencing nothing but success since he's been here. He's in no way, shape, or form going to go back to a team that is trash. So I just don't see what options he has. So if they want to, like I said, if they want to guarantee his whole salary for this year, by all means, go and guarantee his whole salary for this year. If they want to guarantee his whole salary for this year across part of this year and part of next year, I don't really care. If they need to give him an extra, I guess, maybe $5 million across this year and next year, guaranteed to make him happy, okay, maybe, I guess. But like, that's about where I draw the line. Like, I don't want to pay, God love him, I don't want to pay a 36-year-old left tackle a lot more money than I'm already paying him. Again, it's not like the dude's making peanuts. The dude's making $31 million. Yeah. I mean, that's his cap hit. His cap hit is $31 million. I don't want to pay him a lot more than that, and I don't want to put myself in worse cap position going forward when next year I can just whoosh him off the books if I want.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, like, in Trent's defense, it's like, I've been the best left tackle, in the league, and
and I'm in my 30s.
I'm in my 30s, so I need to maximize how much I'm going to get, at this age. Like, that's the thing. Like, I think people are always telling players, like, oh, you get paid millions of dollars, and that should be enough. But the thing about it is, like, these players are in the league for a minimal amount of time, like comparable, like when other people are in the workforce doing their careers. Yeah. And so they have to make as much money as they can while they are still playing, so that they have something to fall back on when they retire, and that's I'm always like, the player should get more money, like, because Trent's the best tackle in the league. So, as me saying to John, just pay him, because you're going to need him, and I agree with you though, Eric. I don't think he's going to hold out past week 3 of preseason. No. And I'm sure John will cave somehow, but if you're not getting anything guaranteed, you need to guarantee me some money, bro. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean,
it's gonna be like that. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say it's gonna end up either being nothing or it's gonna be like Cortland Sutton. I saw Cortland Sutton didn't get any money guaranteed, but he got $1.5 million in incentives, and that's all the Broncos gave him. I could see John saying, like, okay, dude, if you actually play all 17 games, you'll get $2 million. Like,
yeah, I mean, as long as we don't put ourselves in some sort of more drastic cap hell to appease Trent, then I'm okay with whatever you flip-flop the numbers around and whatever you guarantee and stuff like that. But I just don't want us going into any sort of more cap hell than we're already going to be next year just to appease a guy that's already getting $31 million. I just don't want that. Like, it's just not worth it to me, because I really think, again, he's another one of those guys next year that we're going to look at and go, hey, man, you've been great. We love you. We think you're awesome. However, if you want to stick around, we need you to take half of what you were making before. And Trent is going to go, I'm not taking half. I'm Trent freaking Williams. And we're going to go, that's great, Trent. It's been nice having you around. Hasta la vista.
Yeah. And we're already going to have to make so many tough choices next year. Juszczyk is going to come up again because he took a pay cut this year. He's not going to want to do that again if we ask him, which I'm 50-50 if we do. But even for $3.5 million halfback, when we got to start paying Brock $60 million, I'm already starting to assume that we're going to let go of Talanoa Hufanga. Dude, you got to think, like, Debo's probably going to get released. George Kittle might be, because he's my age. George Kittle might be a cap casualty. Fred might have to take a pay cut. Like, there's so many, like, if you look at the most expensive people that we have, we might have to let go. I would assume we're going to have to let go of multiple of them, like no less than 2, unless they take significant pay cuts, because Brock Purdy, I think John is going to cave and sign Brandon to something. I don't know if it'll be $30 million, but he will sign him to something. And then Brock Purdy's got to get $60 million next year. Like, at minimum $60 million. It could be 60.25. It could be 60.75. It could be 61 or 2 AAV.
But
like
right now, I'm saying right now that we will be talking about a Brock Purdy hold-in next year. Rest
No, hold on. When did we sign Jimmy? When did we sign Jimmy?
You can bet that. Like John, guaranteed, like, John's not even thinking about the Brock Purdy contract right now. Like, he's just...
Jimmy G signed his contract the week of the Super Bowl. He signed it February 8th, 2018. So we were in a much different financial situation. We were in a very drastically different situation, but I think it's still worth noting that John did sign Jimmy in February. I think this is a very different situation where he has been losing sleep over Brock's contract for the past year.
I mean, we'll see. I guarantee next year we're going to be talking about a hold-in or a hold-out or whatever, training camp.
Well, maybe we'll get lucky and Brock's contract will be structured like Jalen's contract, where he only makes like $1 for the first like 4 or 5 years. And then in year 6, he makes like $800 billion.
Seriously, how did you get Jalen to agree to, I swear to God, I think he already has 4 void years.
Yeah.
I guess, some guaranteed money up front and a no trade clause. I mean, that's what, no trade clauses cost the player stuff. Like, having a no trade clause costs players money and security, and like, they have the security, but it costs them money to have a no trade clause. And so if you're going to ask for a no trade clause, then you're going to have to give up something to the team, because that means the team has limited avenues in which to trade you. Like, you're not going to get traded unless you agree with the trade. So if you're going to put us with our hands tied like that, then you need to work with us over here and making these numbers work, so that way, we can build something here.
And he did, because it was like $1 million, then like 10, then like 12, then like 15, and then 70. Like,
yeah,
some of it, that's such I laugh every time I look at that.
And honestly, like, he didn't need to do a no trade clause. He didn't need to do it. If you look at the league and what the league has been doing, players aren't going anywhere that they don't really want to.
No.
A player asks for a trade, and they say, these are the places I want to go. They end up going to one of those places. They always do. Like, it's never like when Carson Wentz wanted to get traded, right? He only wanted to go to Indianapolis. That's it. That's the only place he wanted to go. And there were plenty of places that could have used the quarterback. But because all those places know that Carson Wentz doesn't want to play for them, they don't want to make a trade for him. So players go wherever they want to go. They don't need a trade clause. And so that's why I was like, Jalen, why'd you even do that? Like, you don't need that in the NFL, especially if you're a quarterback. Like, if you're a quarterback, you can literally go wherever you want to. No trade clause. You don't need that. So
that's more important for other skill position players. Like quarterbacks have the just what do you call it? You just have that position in the eyes of like the league and your ownership of just like, yeah, we have to be like not gentle, but like we take this guy's opinion seriously.
Well, it comes from baseball, but the way baseball works is like you have a no trade clause because when the trade deadline comes in baseball,
it's a madhouse.
It's like, okay, I get
dumped onto you can get dumped onto the Athletics.
Yeah, like you could get dumped somewhere, and that happens more often in baseball where somebody gets dumped somewhere. So you need a no trade clause, so that way you don't go to the Athletics or you don't go to somebody's
the
Marlins or something like that. Like that could happen at any time, at any point of the season, and then the trade deadline comes and there's like 5 contenders. And you're like, okay, I want to go to this contender. And then, that it works better in baseball. Like football, no. Football, especially quarterbacks, can just control wherever they want to go. You saw Russ Wilson. Russ Wilson wanted to go to Denver. He went to Denver. Aaron Rodgers wanted to go to the Jets. He went to the Jets.
Yeah. Yeah, your analogy is actually really good. I mean, that is a thing in baseball. I mean, like before people had the no trade clauses, you would occasionally see a guy that was like wasn't it Sheffield back in the day. He was playing for I think he played for the Mets, and then he got dumped onto the Marlins or whatever in a salary dump. Yeah, and then it was just teams would have all these high profile salary guys, and then they would stink, and then they would just want to dump their salaries off, and they would just find these crappy teams that were low and but willing to get a star to come in to help boost their ticket revenues and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, sure, we can afford to pay that guy $10 million at the time because it was back in the 90s, right? Wow, we can afford to pay that guy $10 million a year. He'll be great for ticket sales and stuff like that. So they just take him on, and meanwhile this guy's off, and now he's playing for the Marlins or he's playing for the Expos or some nonsense like that, and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a baseball thing. It's worth more in baseball. Like why players do it in football, especially quarterbacks, is totally dumb. It's
it used to be a thing in basketball too, but now the NBA is such a players' league; it doesn't matter there either.
Yeah,
we can look at history too, like the infamous Eli and Phillip trade. We can look at when Joe said, if I'm not playing in San Francisco, I'm playing in Kansas City. And
the offer was better. The offer was better from the freaking Cardinals. The Cardinals had more on the table than what the Chiefs had.
Yeah.
And Joe basically said, "You're trading me to the Chiefs. Otherwise, I'm not going to the Cardinals. I'll retire."
Yeah, I won you 4 Super Bowls. Please give me this one wish since you're not playing me.
Well, or even look back to Carson Palmer. Remember, he retired because the Bengals were going to trade him away to someplace else, and he was like, "It's like I'll just quit then." And then until they were like, "Well, what if we trade you to the Raiders?" He was like, "Oh, okay, well, Raiders is good."
Was that the Cardinals or was that the Bengals?
That was the Bengals.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I swear I thought you said Cardinals. I don't know why I heard Cardinals.
No.
But no, oh my God, the Carson Palmer mess. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
your point's very valid, Jimmy.
Yeah. And you can probably get what you want too. Like that's another thing. Like tying the GM's hands to a team, you still end up like he traded Carson Wentz to Indianapolis. He wanted a first-round pick. He figured out a way to get one. He traded them for 2, conditional 1. Certain criteria were met, and he just crossed his fingers, and it happened, right? and so like. GMs can get what they want for whatever player they want, and do it that way. Like it just players no trade clauses is dumb. I don't know why Jalen did that, but
yeah. But end result from this mess, from the original conversation that you started, Dan, is Trent's going to be on the field week 1. I still think Ayuk's going to be on the field week 1. Ayuk's going to have a shiny new deal when he starts. Trent probably has some guaranteed money of some sort that hopefully doesn't screw up our cap further.
I think Brandon's going to end up, because I remember at the time Devo, I don't even think Devo's contract cracked the top 5. Like we signed him to, oh God, what did we sign him to back then? Like it wasn't like now 3 years later, it wasn't even that shiny of a deal back then. So I think the rumor was 26. I don't know. I think John will cave and get the AAV at 30, but figure out a way to really backload the piss out of it. Like
Probably.
it'll say 30, but really it'll be. I think it will be similar to
how
St.
big
Brown's.
that signing bonus check is going to be. Like, just, I mean, how big is the signing bonus check going to be? That's really probably what they're arguing over, and like,
yeah.
I don't know if I would pay Ayuk a bunch of money. I honestly, I know he could go and be a number one in some offenses, but I always see him as like a number 2 receiver. Just the way he's used and things like that. I don't know if he was the only receiver on a team, he would be able to survive and help that team, get over the hump or whatever as
can you guys
as a receiver,
as
a number 1 wide receiver.
Like look at the
screen.
Look at the way that this is structured. This was a 4-year, $120 million deal, like straight up 30 million AAV. The signing bonus was only 16.5, despite 77 guaranteed. And it kicks in here. It kicks in next year, so they get him on for real cheap. But yeah, no. Look at that. 13 million, 33 million will be reasonable in 26, 29 million in 27, and then 41 million. And he already has a void year, just of almost $2 million. But like, how the hell can we not just, John's going to cave to something very similar to this.
I would think so with an extra year.
This seems,
it should have been done by now. Like, this is the crazy thing. Like, he's smart enough, right? At least I hope and think that he's smart enough to like, hey, why don't we just do this and make it all happen? Like why every year are we talking about hold-ins with the 49ers? It's just ridiculous. It just really, really is ridiculous.
He has this tendency to not want to set the trend. John really likes to just let it sit, not rush anything. Like he says, like, "Oh, I wish we had this done sooner."
No,
you're a general manager. You could make it done sooner. Like,
yeah.
Like he really, unless you're a draft pick and unless you're an outright off the street free agent, like all in-house contracts just take their damn time. Like Jimmy getting signed in February. I think he realized like it was a quarterback. Like it's a quarterback. Let's do it. But ever since that Jimmy contract, every other contract he has taken his sweet time with.
Especially like Nick Bosa. Like John, I know you listen to the podcast. Just get it done.
He's not afraid to call a player's bluff and like, yo, like I'm gonna penny pinch you. I want you to sign a $26 million deal. Well, no, I want to sign a $30 or a $31 million deal. And then John makes them wait until week 1 and okay, fine, screw it. We'll give you a $30 million deal.
But it's the dumbest principle. It really is the dumbest principle. Like negotiate with the guy and get it to where you're both like it. It's not that hard. If Howie Roseman can do it, when a couple of years ago, like he was, we thought of him as probably one of the worst GMs in the league. And now he's the best. Why is he the best? Because he can sign players way before the market is set. Like he sets the market at an earlier time, and he doesn't have, hold-ins or holdouts or anything like that. Last year he had Hassan Reddick and they were negotiating a deal, but they couldn't get it done. So he's like, okay, find a trade partner, found a trade partner. And now the Jets have their own holdout problem. Like,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
that's, Howie, if he feels like he can't make a deal with you, you want to go find a trade? Yeah, go find a trade and go be with them. Let that be their headache, And that was about the only time he really had somebody like actually like threaten to hold out and they couldn't get an agreement done, but he figured out a way to just shove him along, let it be somebody else's problem. That's not the type of problem Howie Roseman has. He just doesn't have the problem of people holding out, holding in, and everything. So
there's a level of emotion that's not quite there with him that John has that I think makes these much more difficult than they need to be. Because John really not as bad as Jerry. Jerry's much more too loyal, so to say. But John does have John respects a lot of loyalty, and he tries to be loyal back. And optically, it makes him look bad sometimes. Like the Jimmy trade, how many holdouts we've had. Like, he likes the guys that he likes a lot. A lot. Even if he's trying to get rid of Jimmy, he was making people offer a first-round pick, which no one was going to offer a first-round pick for Jimmy G. Get the hell out of here. But he respects the hell out of the guys that contribute to the team, which I do admire, even at the expense of what you're talking about. In a business, like, some business people are cold. I respect that John's not quite that cold, even though your argument notwithstanding, your argument is incredibly valid.
But and look at last year with Nick Bosa. Like, it was ridiculous. He's the best defensive player in the league. Pay him like that. Like
5 days before kickoff, and he finally signs his deal.
Exactly. It was literally 3.5 hours after the episode aired. It was like 3.5 hours after Niner Nuts aired. Nick Bosa was signed. Now, John, we know you listen to the podcast, and here we're telling you with Brandon and Trent, you can figure out a way so that doesn't become a problem. We know you will. Just get it done. Why do you got to do this every year?
I guess the only other thing that we need to consider, and it's the other variable in the equation, and we're kind of assuming that Ayuk's camp is also negotiating fairly, right? I mean, so Ayuk's camp could be standing on the fact that they're like, he wants to be the highest paid receiver in the NFL. And that could just be their platform. And, Lynch could be like, look, I mean, that's great, but we're not doing that. And they could be like, well, he wants to be the highest paid receiver in the NFL. And I mean, maybe they're not budging. Maybe they're standing in a position that, is just something that's untenable at the moment. And that's why things haven't moved where they are. Like, both sides understand where they are. Great, Brandon, I understand you want to be the highest paid receiver in the NFL. We understand we're not going to make you the highest paid receiver in the NFL. So until you're ready to meet somewhere in the middle, we're going to continue to have this lack of progress because, that's just where this is going to go. So, I mean, we do have to take into consideration that it's possible Ayuk's camp isn't negotiating either. So
it could be, but I tend not to think so, just because this
I don't either. this
happens year after year after year. It's never
totally agree. I just wanted to throw that out there, is that it does take two sides to dance in this particular equation.
I think bottom line, Brandon is going to hold out longer than Trent. We're in agreement on that. And Brandon doesn't want to leave. Brandon is saying whatever he does, I could see myself in Pittsburgh. I could hang out with my boy Jalen in Washington. You don't want to go to Washington. Get out of here. You don't want to play with Russell Wilson. Get at it. Like, you could want to play with Mike Tomlin, but you don't want to play with Russell Wilson in that insane division where you're definitely not guaranteed a division title, like in our division, arguably. He wants to stay in San Francisco. You cannot tell me he doesn't want to actually stay. So it's just a matter of when the cave-in will happen. Like, I think he's going to get a $30 million AAV. I bet the total guaranteed is going to be closer to 90 than Amon's 77. Like, it's just a matter of when. Like, I do not believe Brandon actually wants to leave unless he's accepted. He's very likely not going to get a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a good point, Dan. I mean, we negotiate. I mean, you see this happen to go back to what Jimmy was saying earlier, you see this happen in baseball all the time. Like people want to go play for the Yankees. People want to go play for the Dodgers. People want to go play for the Red Sox. People want to go play for, there's a handful or so of the Phillies. People want to go play for this handful or so of teams in Major League Baseball that are just these big, prominent, big name, popular franchises that have just existed for, however long, and just have these big names, and just there's this prominence associated with them, and players even still see a prestige in playing for them, just like in the NBA, right? Everybody wants to play for the Lakers. Everybody wants to play for the Celtics, right? Everybody wants to play for the Knicks, even though the Knicks typically suck. But everybody still wants to play for those franchises because they just have those names that have been around for so long.
They're big market teams too.
People still want to play for the Bulls because of everything Jordan did for the Bulls back in the 80s and the 90s, right? I mean, he put Chicago on the map, so people still want to play for the Bulls and things like that. So I do think that is one benefit that the 49ers do have going for them, is that they still are a franchise of prominence and popularity and posterity. And so, I mean, I think to your point, Dan, I think like you're saying, like, where are you going to go? You're going to go to the Steelers. Like that's kind of a step down. You're going to go to the Commanders. That's a big step down when you're talking about franchises that you're doing things on. So, I mean, like, unless you're going to another team that's equal in prominence to ours, why would you want to go away from that? So, I mean, if you can make your name as, if you can play here in San Francisco for the next 5 years, so you've played 9 years of your career as a 49er, you could make yourself an all-time career player, perhaps, if you play, to the outstanding levels of your capabilities. You could be an all-time great, perhaps. I mean, you're never going to be the greatest because you're not Jerry Rice, but you could be known as one of the greats.
I would argue that his talent level is only going to be one of the greats of the 49ers. I don't think his talent level is going to project up there with the likes of, Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, or,
he's gotten better every year though. He's yet to have a step back in terms of statistics. And Brock Purdy clearly proved, like, not to make this another hour, Brock Purdy clearly proved that he's a quarterback that can elevate the roster. Because that's what happened with Jimmy. Jimmy couldn't elevate the roster. The roster carried Jimmy. I'm convinced Brock can actually elevate the roster and make Brandon continue to make legit number one part of Brandon's name.
Well,
I'm on the same page as Dan with that, is that I think that a Purdy Ayuk combination can really be very successful for like 5 years out.
Take 2 years. Take 2 years from now, when who knows what Ricky Pearsall is going to be like, and Debo's very likely not going to be on the roster. Once we sign Brandon, guess who's still there?
I just think, like, I know he's gotten better every single year, but he's also benefited from the offense going from, having mediocre running back at it to having Christian McCaffrey at it. And Christian McCaffrey adds a dynamic to the offense that allows for other players to be good. And that's
fair. Yeah.
And that's why I think, like, Christian McCaffrey's he's on his third contract now?
Technically third, yeah.
Third contract. So he's getting old. He's getting up there. He's a running back. He's not going to last too much longer.
No.
And I don't think, like, the way John seems to, like, he can't pick a running back. Like, he's tried so many running backs in this offense, and he couldn't get Christian McCaffrey.
Injuries are not his fault, though. The injuries aren't his fault. That's terrible luck that all the running backs that he picked just kept getting injured. Mostert can stay healthy. Oh my God, Mitchell can't stay healthy to save his life. Like, that's not John's fault, though.
But it just seems as like, like, other than so they drafted Debo, they drafted Ayuk, and they drafted Purdy, right?
And Fred, and George, and Hoof, and
But I'm talking about on offense. So you got Purdy. You drafted Ayuk.
Yeah,
Kittle.
Yeah, Debo too.
Debo and Kittle. So, okay. But obviously, I think the offense really got successful when Christian McCaffrey got there. And then that's when somebody like Brandon Ayuk becomes a weapon, because you have another weapon in Christian McCaffrey. And when Christian McCaffrey wasn't there, Brandon Ayuk wasn't as much of a weapon. So I don't think that's why I sort of don't think that Brandon Ayuk could be the type of player that could be the number one option on like any other team. And that's probably why I think he should stay in San Francisco. But I don't, even if he stays in San Francisco, I don't see him getting onto the level of, all-time greats in the NFL. Maybe 49ers, but not in the NFL.
Yeah, right? Your point's valid, and I guess it's something that we're not going to be able to decide for another X amount of years yet, right? Because everything coincided too much with, like, right at the time that Jimmy got broken finally for the last time and left, basically both Christian and Purdy came in at virtually the same time. And so you're not really going to be able to separate, well, was Ayuk's performance and his excellence and his acceleration tied to Purdy or tied to Christian or tied to both, or was he being held back by Jimmy? Like you can't truly separate the two because of just the circumstances of how it all came together. And we're not going to know that until we go through another 3-4 years and see how he performs, maybe after McCaffrey leaves, after he has another 2-3 more seasons with Brock under center. We're not going to know.
And I would agree that his best chance to be successful is with the 49ers. Like I would agree that, like, because you have Brock Purdy. I mean, you have Christian McCaffrey for a couple more years. You have Debo, you have Kittle, you have all these weapons on offense that, it's like pick your poison, like who you gonna cover, who you're gonna take off, whatever. So I think his best chance to be successful in the NFL with the numbers and stuff like that, or with the 49ers, I just, I don't see his potential being any higher than, what he is now. I don't. So that's just how I feel. And
right.
Like you said, like if he goes to Pittsburgh, it doesn't make them like Super Bowl contenders. It doesn't. No. If he goes to Denver, they're not Super Bowl contenders. If he goes to Washington, that doesn't make them Super Bowl contenders because they all have questions at quarterback. So his best chance to be successful is on the 49ers. I would agree with that. And for him to leave and try to carry a team and be the one that gets them over the hump in the situations that he is saying, like, it's not going to happen. I agree with that. My
Patriots friend was telling me that, like, that we should tell John to send him to New England. And I'm like, that's not happening, dude. You could afford him. You could afford to overpay him too. You could afford to give him $36 million a year and reset the market, but that's not going to happen, dude. He's not playing with Drake May.
Drake May's not even starting out there. They're playing
Jacoby
Brissett. Jacoby Brissett is the number one quarterback. That's what Jared Mayo said today.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Well, guys, honestly, I think this has been a good start to training camp. We will have more training camp to cover, but oh man, this is the last off week that we have, don't we? This is the one coming up. This is our last off week because the games will start after that.
Do we count preseason games as games? I mean,
yeah, we do. We do.
The Hall of Fame game is not a real game. That's like a very glorified walkthrough.
We will have that discussion because that literally just hit me, listeners, behind the curtain. It literally just hit me. We're almost done with the bye weeks. Thank God. But anyway, I think this is a good spot to remind everybody who has been a wonderful sponsor for us. And as far as I know, will continue to sponsor us into next year. We should definitely see if they've updated this collection that they have here at RoyalRetros.com. What is Royal Retros? If you don't know, it is your go-to place to get yourself an authentic throwback jersey, not just football. If you're a fan of European football, basketball, baseball, what have you, they have you covered. And go ahead and check out the Candlestick collection. It is curated with us Niners fans in mind. And when you find something you like, use the promo code Shady Sports to get 10% off of your entire order. That is Shady Sports at checkout for 10% off of your entire order. Again, go to royalretros.com, use promo code Shady Sports, and get yourself an authentic throwback jersey today. James, let the people know about the charity we are doing.
So, guys, we've been working with a charity called Mountain Comprehensive Care Centers in Kentucky. They are a crisis center. The reason why we started with them was because the Houston Texans minority owner was charged with very serious sexual crimes in there. And as we have said a lot along the lines of from NBC's profootball.com, that owners aren't held to the same accountability as players are. And so we've basically started the statement, owner accountability is less than player accountability. Our owner standards are less than player standards, #owner accountability. And to show you we put our money where our mouth is, we are raising money for Mountain Comprehensive Care Centers in Kentucky by selling our t-shirts. There's our stance right there. Owner standards are less than player standards, #owner accountability. You can get that in different colors, different sizes. $22.99 starts you that at a t-shirt. Next up, we have our podcast logo art. You'll find this wherever you see our YouTube channel or on Spotify. You'll see this art. $22.99 gets you in that in a shirt, different sizes, different styles. Next up, we have our alternate logo. I have this t-shirt, very high quality. $22.99 gets you that in a t-shirt, different styles, different sizes. And last but not least, our mascot. How can you say no to a peanut eating peanuts while cheering on the San Francisco 49ers? That's raise money for Kentucky's Crisis Center. All the proceeds go to Mountain Comprehensive Care Centers in Kentucky. You can find the information on where to buy them in the show description.
Yeah, just like James said, we don't want any money from these shirts. We want to raise money for a good cause and get you a good t-shirt in the process. So with that, so really talking about news, and I didn't do my prep good enough.
Dan, you got really
hot.
loud.
You're really hot.
You got
Whoa.
really loud.
Whoa. Is it okay if I lean back here? I don't know what happened. Am I good now?
You're still kind of loud. You got cut out for a second, and then you got super loud.
How about that? Is my
better.
gain?
That's better.
Is it still? I'll play with it in post. Well, I kind of spelled all my news throughout the episode, like Courtland Sutton getting a raise and CD doing a holdout, and this whole episode was kind of news oriented. And I don't want to tell people to. I don't want to remind people about the other real world stuff going on. Did you see anything on Roto World or anything worth noting, Eric?
I saw Justin Fields started for the Steelers in training camp today over Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson apparently has a calf injury. So there you go there.
Is Lamar Jackson still sick? Is that up there? Because that apparently has been an annual thing. I wasn't aware of that. Every summer he gets terribly sick.
It can't make it for the first weeks of training camp.
No, I'm not joking. Like that, I'm trying to stay quiet for the hotness. Apparently he has gotten very ill every summer for the last like 3 or 4 years.
Oh, I did not see that. So no, but yeah. So yeah, drama in Steelers land. Justin Fields had the starting reps in practice today. So already that's going to be a mess if Wilson misses a couple weeks with this strained calf. Then what are you going to do?
I like that.
I mean, be backup quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and yeah.
What a strange situation they have there. Like not to belabor it too long, but they're both on 1-year contracts and they're the same. They're like the same car, but one's a 2012 model and one's a 20 model. Like that's such a bizarre situation up there. I kind of can't wait to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
They'll go 9-8 and miss the playoffs. That's probably what's going to happen. We can predict it every year, right?
They will still. Mike Tomlin's like, God damn it, we will still be at 500. I don't care who our quarterback is. We will not go under 500 this year.
Yeah. I mean, Tomlin willed them there with like Mason Rudolph quarterbacking games last year for him. So I mean, I would not. There is no amount of money that I would put against Mike Tomlin making the playoffs. That's for sure, or making 500 for sure. There's no money I would bet against that.
And that whole division will be on Hard Knocks. My one Hard Knocks mention
You have to get your Hard Knocks plug in.
Drain. Dan mentioned Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
next week's the finale of the Giants one, and that has been very entertaining to watch. That GM, oh man, that GM is just, he's a really nice guy, but man, his decision making, I question.
I didn't need to watch Hard Knocks to know that he's an idiot. I saw him sign Daniel Jones to a $40 million a year contract. That was all I needed to know.
Hey, but then the Bears, to draw your ire, the Bears are only 2 weeks away. I think that starts August. I think it starts August 7th or 2nd.
So tired of people slurping on the Bears this year. I cannot wait until they go 3-14. So
I do have it right here because I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget. That was the note. August 6th. August 6th, the Bears start.
It'd be so great when they're just so terrible this season. I cannot wait. I will talk about it in every podcast. It'll be awesome.
I can't wait. But anyway, guys, we will, I guess we are taking next week off, and then we'll figure out from there if we're going to go back to weekly. We need to discuss that off mic though. But so we may or may not be back next week. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Eric, you got anything left to say?
Nope, I'm all good, man. Hit it.
Outro music, River Road, Justin Youth.
We'll see you later, guys.
River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long. River Road, where have all the women gone? Have they kissed her hand and waved you bye-bye? Have they thought about crossing your double yellow lines? River Road, they love the